Drawing 2, Sophia and Lauren. I'm outside again because it's just a nice afternoon. I told you that what we'd be doing next would be similar to the previous drawing of the peppers, or drawings of the peppers that we got started earlier in the week. We're still going to work with value, but I thought it would be appropriate to go over this next technique, which is usually referred to as reduction drawing or subtractive drawing, where you're drawing by removing. In essence, you're drawing in reverse, because what we're doing is starting with a charcoal covered background and then developing the drawing by removing the charcoal to bring out the light. And normally what we do with charcoal is we're always working on white paper, pencil, working on white paper, and adding the values. But to give you a better grasp of reading values, we also want to explore and sharpen our value reading skills by using the reverse process. So I wanted to first start out by showing you how to prepare your paper. I've started it because it can take a little while, and I don't want this whole video segment to just be concentrating on that. So we're using the flat side of a piece of charcoal, soft or medium. If you get hard, it's going to be tough. Okay, so I'm just going to lay, and you don't need to use a lot of pressure. Just go vertically. I'm doing here. Get some charcoal down. It's not going to look real precise or like it's going to amount to anything when you start this process, but it does take a little while before it's ready to go. I get to move these around so I can get the whole paper so that the drawing is got a complete look to it. You know, that's one of the things I mentioned about what we're going to do differently here in drawing 2, is we want to really think about the drawings that we're doing as drawings and not as exercises. Alright, so now we've got that direction. So now I want to turn this drawing board around and proceed by overlapping in a different direction. You know, you can see I've got my border around my paper again to help with presentation and give it that cleaner look. Plus, again, it always helps with making compositional decisions if your frame of your picture plane is more readily evident and not just always being the end of the paper as your guide. Now you can focus that boundary carefully. I'm going to do this one more time in this direction, and then I'm going to take a little while to work this into the paper so it has a softer, more velvety appearance. And there's no need to think that this has got to be pitch black. You do want a dark gray as a foundation, because we hope that in the process you're also going to be inclined to add more charcoal to create darker passages. So now, like I did in the last drawing, I'm just using a kitchen napkin or paper towel, and I'm going to start working this in. You can do it carefully to kind of keep reference to my boundaries there, and I'm not pressing hard again, just using a little pressure just to push the charcoal into the paper, and that'll lessen that grainy quality that usually comes from using the flat side of the charcoal. And we're probably going to go over this one more time to lessen that grainy quality even more. I also want to tell you, I'm going to videotape these segments in shorter increments so that we don't spend a lot of time just, spending the good portion of the video just prepping the papers. I'd like for us to really get some time into actually looking at how the process is started. But I also have viewed a couple of examples of this process on YouTube, and most of the time they don't really go over the prep well enough. So that's why I'm taking the time to do it here. I'm going to go one more time. I'm going to go a little quickly, get a little more charcoal on the surface. Work it on, work it in, and then we're good to go. And some videos recommend that you use this charcoal and the vine charcoal, which is that real flimsy, delicate stuff, but that's just an extra step I don't really think you need to go into. Or if you have some of that handy, it's always good to keep it around, because it can be used to, you know, like if you erased in an area that you perhaps maybe removed too much, you can just rub some of that soft stuff on your finger and work it back into that spot to lessen the severity of that eraser. Okay, so this is good. Remember, we're probably going to come back and do some work in negative space, so there's no need to get this any darker right now. But at the same time, don't discount the need to come back and add some more. Okay, now we're in a good spot here. I've got my image that I'm going to work from. I'm using a Xerox copy. Okay, so I used one of the photographs from the image group of the images that I sent you. It's another Edward Weston image. I like using his work for drawing subjects because he does give you a nice range of values. Sometimes his images are really light. Use the lighter end of the value scale, and sometimes they go toward the darker end, like those peppers. Okay, so we've got our image. I'm just going to make a few marks, and then we're going to pause and come back again to keep this video increments short, and then we'll continue to work on the drawing. But I just want to make a few pointers here, give you some pointers about, it can be kind of intimidating to erase. What if I erase it in the wrong spot? Well, you've got your dirty napkin here, and you can just work some back in. But if I've got my image, I'm working on a rectangular format. My photograph that I'm working from is a rectangular format. So if I'm looking even at this whole sheet here, and looking at my whole sheet, I've got a pretty good similarity in rectangular shapes. So I want to start with a landmark. So the landmark I'm going to use is her part in her hair. Her head is tilted down between her knees. And I'm looking at this in relationship to the corner of the paper and the actual photograph. So I'm looking at it, it's in the upper left, in this area, all right? And I'm just going to eyeball the distance from there to there. And I'm going to approximate that it's right here. It's going to come and use the corner with my shaped eraser. And I'm going to start by indicating loosely the approximate location of that. Okay. Alright, I can refine that later, but now I've got a starting point. And so here's my main road, my main thoroughfare, and I'm going to start to add other landmarks by feeding off that one mark. I'm going to soften this because it looks like it's erased a little excessively right there. Okay, so now a good additional landmarks would be the knees. So once again, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the knee on the right. I'm looking at the location of it in relation to that mark. Again, diagonally placed, it's going to be about right here. I can even use a clean finger and lightly reference its location, and then start to erase lightly. Don't try to give it a finished look with your first erasing. Here. And then I've got the shin, this area here. You may want to enlarge this. I'm looking at this space, making sure I don't have too much there. That looks to be about right. Alright, I'm going to move over to this side. Now remember, if you look, there's a tilt to the positioning of her knees. They're not lined up one with the other. I'm going to switch this over to this side. Alright, you see they're angled. So again, I'm going to look at that same angle. You can just trace over it with your finger and then come over here. So once again, we're looking at that top being about right here. I'm looking at that space, and I'm going to erase in lightly. Okay, so I'm going to leave this as it is for now. I'll leave you and come back in a few minutes and do some more refinement. Again, I want to keep this short. One thing that it always concerns me when I engage this particular drawing in my, or this technique in drawing classes, is my fear that, you know, even though we might be in the classroom face to face, it always happens where you've got this nice surface to begin your drawing, and I'll catch a student just using the eraser to outline everything. They start outlining stuff. Outlining in white. I don't see any white outlines. So, and what happens is you're not really changing your drawing approach. You're supposed to be reading light. And so the erasing that you do should focus on areas of light and not using the eraser to simply trace out boundaries. And what distinguishes this process too is it forces you to start inside your subject and to work from the interior to the exterior. Okay, so we've started in here. That's led us. We started with this one line. We've moved to this location, and now we're going to come down, start adding the arms, and then maybe we'll take a break and start adding some more charcoal in, so we can add some more landmark locations. So I'm gonna stop this video right now, pick on this just a little more, and then we'll pick up and do some more additional work.